the Buddha's lesson that transforms suffering into wisdom. There is a moment in every human life, quiet, private, and wrought, and suffering feels like the only truth left in the world. It might be the loss of someone we love, the slow collapse of something we believed would last, or simply the unbearable weight of meaninglessness pressing down on our chest. In that moment, every philosophy feels hollow, every word of comfort to light. Yet it was exactly in that human ache, not in temples or scriptures, that the Buddha began his search for truth. Before he was the Buddha, he was Siddhartha, a man who had everything the world could offer and yet was pierced by the simple sight of suffering. An old man, a sick man, a corpse, and a monk walking in peace amidst it all. Those encounters shattered the illusion of comfort and opened the gate to awakening. The Buddha's journey did not begin with enlightenment. It began with disillusionment. He dared to see what most of us spend our lives avoiding, that suffering is not a mistake in life's design, but an essential part of its unfolding. The Buddha's first teaching after enlightenment was not a grand proclamation of mystical truths, but something deeply human and humble, the Four Noble Truths. At the heart of it lies an insight both simple and revolutionary. There is suffering, it has a cause, it can end, and there is a path that leads beyond it. In that clarity, the Buddha turned the human experience of pain into a doorway to wisdom. We often fight against suffering as though it were an enemy to be conquered, but the Buddha's lesson invites us to stop fighting and start seeing. Suffering, he said, is like a messenger knocking at the door of consciousness. If we ignore it, it keeps knocking, louder, harsher. But when we open the door, when we truly look into its face, we realize it was never our enemy. It came to show us where we are still clinging, where we are still afraid, where love in us is not yet ripened into wisdom. In the silence of meditation, when the noise of resistance fades, we begin to notice that every moment of pain carries within it a seed of understanding. When we are betrayed, we learn about trust. When we lose, we learn about letting go. When we fall, we learn about humility. Suffering, seen through the eyes of mindfulness, is not punishment. It is the universe whispering, "Wake up." The Buddha compared this to the lotus flower, one of the most sacred symbols in Buddhism. The lotus grows from the mud, yet rises unstained above the water, opening its petals to the sunlight. Without mud, there is no lotus. Without suffering, there is no awakening. To wish for enlightenment without hardship is like wanting a flower without roots. The very things we try to escape from are the same forces shaping our wisdom. Modern life, with all its noise and the constant pursuit of comfort, teaches us to numb our pain. We drown it in entertainment, in ambition, in distraction. But numbness is not peace. It is only postponement. The Buddha's way is the opposite. To sit down, breathe, and feel, to face the ache without running away, to hold it gently as one might hold a crying child, until understanding blooms naturally from within. And we stop resisting, something miraculous happens. The pain that once consumed us begins to soften. We start to see its impermanence, how even the deepest sorrow changes, how the storm in the heart cannot last forever, and as that realization deepens, compassion is born, because when we truly understand our own suffering, we begin to see it in others. and we can no longer turn away. That is the quiet power of wisdom. It transforms the raw material of pain into the gold of compassion. The one who has suffered deeply becomes capable of deep understanding. The one who has faced their own darkness becomes a light for others. This is what the Buddha called karuna, compassion rooted in insight, not in pity. It is the ability to look at the world's suffering and say, I understand, and I will not close my heart. Many centuries after the Buddha, his teaching still speaks directly to our modern wounds. Depression, anxiety, loneliness, these are not new afflictions, they are simply the ancient human condition wearing a new mask. And the Buddha's lesson remains the same. Look deeply. Behind every form of suffering lies attachment, the mind's desperate attempt to hold on to what cannot be held, to resist the natural flow of change the moment we see that we are free. Freedom in Buddhism does not mean escaping pain. It means no longer being enslaved by it. When awareness is present, even sadness becomes sacred. When understanding dawns, even loss becomes a teacher. This is not romantic idealism. It is a practical truth. Every time you breathe mindfully through a difficult moment, you are living the Buddha's lesson. Every time you choose to see rather than to run, to listen rather than to suppress, you are transforming suffering into wisdom. Perhaps that is what the Buddha meant when he said, in this fathom-long body, I declare, lies the world, the origin of the world, the cessation of the world, and the path leading to the cessation of the world. Everything we need to understand about life is already within us. Our joy, our grief, our longing, our fear. The task is not to escape them, but to awaken through them. And one day, as the practitioner sits quietly, breathing in and out, something subtle shifts. The pain that once felt unbearable is now just a ripple in the vastness of awareness. The mind no longer asks, why me, but whispers, thank you. Thank you for the lesson hidden within the storm. Thank you for the mud that nourished the lotus. Thank you for the suffering that became the doorway to peace. In that moment, the teaching of the Buddha comes alive, not as philosophy, but as living truth. We see that wisdom is not found by avoiding life's difficulties, but by walking through them with eyes open and heart awake. The world has not changed, but our relationship to it has. The waves still rise and fall, but we have learned to to live with such awareness is to live in freedom, not freedom from pain, but freedom within it. The heart, once fragmented by fear and desire, becomes spacious, tender, and luminous, and from that space arises the deepest kind of peace, not the fragile calm that depends on circumstances, but the unshakable serenity that flows from understanding. This is the Buddha's timeless lesson. Suffering is not the opposite of wisdom. It is its raw beginning. When embraced with mindfulness, suffering refines the heart, humbles the ego, and reveals the light of compassion hidden in every human being. So if you are walking through pain right now, breathe, stay, don't turn away. There is something sacred unfolding in your very struggle. Within your wounds lies the wisdom that will one day heal others. Like the lotus rising from the mud, your awakening begins exactly where you stand. And in that gentle awareness, suffering ceases to be a curse. It becomes a teacher, one that whispers, quietly but clearly, this too is the path.